Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. I'm Bill, the company's expert, and this is the weekly live stream where we talk about entrepreneurship and whatnot. So everything to do with business, everything to do with side hustles, starting your own companies, startups, that kind of stuff. If you have any questions, you're in luck because this is a interactive live stream. So if you see my face, you should see. If you see what I'm saying. You should see a live, what do you call it? A box of some sort, a chat box, if you will, nearby. So get in the chat box. Let me know what you're wondering about. Let me know what you're struggling with. And I'm here to help you out. Anything related to business, side hustles, startups, that kind of stuff. Good God. Heavens to Murgatroyd. The title of this episode is Stop Being an Employee and Build Your Dream. This is episode number 76. So, yeah, this is something that I have some pretty strong feelings about. I normally talk about on this YouTube channel how to get a job and careers and that kind of stuff. I mean, this is a critical component of that. Something that I don't see a lot of other people sort of combining. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of them are recruiters, and they talk about how to get a job, how to pass job interviews. Okay, great. But that's not the only thing you can do in life. Far from it. You don't just have to work as an employee. A lot of people don't. There's other options. And one of them is this, going into business for yourself. And I think this is an incredible subject. I'm obviously a big fan of business. And, I've been a CEO. I have, as you can see on the screen, I sell an MBA course. I myself have an MBA. I'm a business guy. And I think this is an incredible thing. I think that a lot of people really should have more of an awareness of business, what it is, especially considering how many people there are out there who are trying to achieve the goals of business, which is namely to make money for themselves. Business is the scientific study of how to make money. That's essentially what it is. So if you want to learn how to make money and how money is made and all that kind of stuff, you study business. That's what it's for. So I do not ever want to say the word activist. In fact, I just have, but but I'm a champion of people learning about business. I think that even if you don't, become an entrepreneur or anything like that, I think it will help you in your life. Even in your standard career, working as an employee, it'll be tremendously useful. You'll be able to understand why companies operate the way they do, why organizations operate the way they do. There's some incredible insight there. All of a sudden, a lot of things that you looked at before and thought, I don't understand this. The only reason I can come up with is that people must be stupid because I don't get why they're doing this. All of a sudden, a lot of that stuff, it's sort of like someone turns on the light and you realize, I know exactly why they're doing that. I know exactly what the goal is. I know exactly what the strategy is that they're employing, and that's why they're doing this. And although it seems kind of weird, I know that this is why they're doing it, because there's something going on that's not immediately obvious that makes it worthwhile. So I think it's an incredible thing for people to learn. I want to encourage people to do this. And the simplest possible direct usage of this knowledge is doing something like a side hustle, where you have a day job and you don't, quit your day job or anything. You keep your day job. Okay, you're working as an employee for somebody else, right? But on the side, you kind of do your own thing. And your own thing not only presumably speaks to some kind of passion of yours, some hobby or some creative outlet, but hey, it makes money too, and you supplement your income. So it's a win-win. And I, as you can tell from the title of this live stream, I encourage people to do side hustles because some people, for them, it'll be a gateway into quitting their day job completely and going into business full-time for themselves. Their side hustle will make enough money that it will replace their regular income, and they'll be able to do their own thing as their main line. And when you do that, there's all kinds of advantages. And I'm a big proponent of the advantages. I myself have done that years ago. So, and technically as a consultant and YouTuber, I'm doing that now. So yeah, this is what we're here to talk about. Get in the chat. This is an interactive live stream. I really don't have too much of an agenda to talk about here today, other than sort of evangelizing the idea of you learning business and tuning into this stuff. It'll help you in multiple ways. Let me know if you guys have questions. Some things that I'd like to touch on today. What's bad about being an employee? Okay. Now, obviously, there's a few things that are good about being an employee. You get money, right? But even the blindest of us, you have to admit, you have to concede that you give up quite a few things to be an employee. When you go to work, you don't really decide too much what you do. You're told what to do, so you don't end up spending too much time doing the things you would like to do. And instead, you're doing the things that you're made to do, right? There's a big difference. So not having a lot of control over what you actually do all day, not having a lot of, creative input on things. And let's face it, a lot of jobs, it really feels like you're paid to dig a hole and then fill it back in, and then dig another hole and then fill it back in for the amount of good you do, right? You ever get that feeling? I've had jobs like that, where, you build something and then it all goes to naught, or the actual activities that you do all day long in the course of the workday, as I adjust my beautiful high-tech camera here, it just feels useless, right? I don't know if you've ever been in that boat. So obviously, if you're young and you get out into the workforce and these are the kinds of jobs you're getting, and maybe, it's not like a matter of you're doing like entry-level summer type jobs, but you actually get into a career job. Maybe you go to school, get some kind of educational qualification, and you come out and you get your first career job. And in your first career job, you feel totally disenchanted. What you're doing is boring. What you're doing doesn't really do any good in any real sense. You don't really get much satisfaction out of it, right? Other than your paycheck. Right now, the prospect of doing that type of thing for the rest of your life maybe doesn't appeal to you. Okay? If you're relatively young and, you have most of your life before you, and you've come out of school and you've gotten a job and this is kind of how it's going, you wouldn't be the first one. That's a relatively common thing, actually. And it can be pretty disenchanting. I myself, when I came out of university, I got a career job. I ended up in the railroad, and it was shift work. So I was on midnight shift for a couple of years. So that's where you go to work and you start your day officially at midnight and you end it officially at 8 a.m. So you go right through the night. And in my case, you'd have to be there like an hour or an hour and a half early every day, and then you'd end up being a little bit late. So, it was like 10:30 p.m. to 8 a.m. And then you'd have to commute. And when you're commuting, everybody's going one way, and you're the only person going the other way. It's interesting. Yeah, and I remember just being young and doing that. It was just disheartening. It killed any social life you had completely, like stone dead. Especially when, as I recall now, like your days off are different. So you don't get Saturday, Sunday off. You get like Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, Friday, or Sunday, Monday, or what. So it's shift work plus weird days off. I did that for a few years. So I understand the feeling. So if anyone out there is kind of experiencing this type of thing where it's just very disenchanting, I get it. I've been there. And a lot of people have had it a lot worse than me, too. Hamza is here. Hamza says, "What's up?" Yeah, so that's probably one issue with it. And you feel like you have wasted potential, right? You're just sort of becoming a grunt for somebody else, and that's fine. Hey, a lot of people, they live for the time that they're not at work, right? They got hobbies and family and friends and all kinds of stuff going outside of work, and that's what you live for. Right on. Great. All the more power to you. But the problem is we do spend a lot of our lives at work, right? And if you're doing something that really doesn't do anything for you, hey, maybe the money's good, and that can persuade you to stay for a while, right? But that can't persuade you to stay forever. That's the thing. And I know that from experience. And I've also seen that in a lot of people. That's a principle, by the way. You can offer people money, and when they're young or they're new, the money will be an incentive for them. It'll really make them excited and motivated to, do what you want them to do and stuff. But long term, you cannot motivate people with money. And this is a universal truth across the board. This is what they found with like executive compensation, by the way. You can't motivate people long term with money. You have to have other things in there, because they will not stay in a job they hate forever. Even if it pays them like $1 million a year, they will eventually leave. You could offer them more money, it won't do any good, they'll leave. So this is kind of probably the most immediate reason, I think, why people might check this stuff out, the entrepreneurship side of things. The other thing, it's a very creative type thing to begin with, and I hate the way that people use the word creative in this world. Whenever they say creative, it usually means that they're referring to people that do like fine arts, painting and sculpting and music and that kind of stuff. I hate the way that that's what it always means. People that do other things than fine arts can be creative. And this is what we see every single day. I don't care if you go to work and you're a taxi driver, you could still be creative. You could do your cab up the way you want. You could be creative in how you talk to people or how you organize their information at your job, like whatever, People can be creative. People come up with their own solutions to problems. It's not just people that work in fine arts that have the monopoly on creativity. And we see that in the world of business. A lot of startups are founded by people that are creative. They have their own ideas. They see something that they think should be done out in the world. They don't see it being done. And they dedicate themselves to let's see if we can get this to happen, right? Instead of doing a painting, you're doing a company. It's a little bit different. But it's the same basic drive. Hamza is here. Hamza says, I'm now in a recruitment program that is funded by the Norwegian government. Okay. Is that like King Haakon and all that kind of stuff? They're doing a kind of a thing. It's exciting for me as I also get paid by participating in the program. I will try to improve my communication skills and be more comfortable. Okay, good. Well, good for you, Hamza. Yeah, communication skills are very important. A lot of people don't understand what communication skills are, by the way. They think it's just expressing yourself. No, it isn't. That's maybe the 101, like the absolute basics, chapter 1 of what communication skills are. Communication skills are getting the correct behavior in the person who's listening to you, the receiver, right? So I can say what I think, but if in the process of doing that, I piss everyone off, and I also do it in such a way that people don't really believe me, or they think I'm being two-faced about it or something, and then they walk away not believing me, not understanding, and hating me, that's a fail across the board. Communication skills is not only to be clear, but also to get the other person to agree with you, to enjoy interacting with you, and want to interact with you again, want to work with you again, right? And if you're trying to persuade them of something or to do something, they wholeheartedly would like to do it, right? That's communication skills, getting the desired behavior in the receiver. That's what it's about. Hamza says, do you think that communication skills is missing with Gen Z? I don't know. I mean, I don't like general questions like this. Language is evolving. Culture is evolving. There are some Gen X people that, someone like me, you look at them and you think like, God, it just makes you want to weep for the human race. Others, you look at them and you go, thank you. I'm so glad you exist because you give me hope for the future, because quite frankly, you're awesome. You're sharper than I was at that age. You're smarter than I was at that age. You're more aware. It's like right on. I feel good. So it takes all kinds, right? Roxanne says, hello there. Hello there, Roxanne. Thank you for being here. It's great to have you here. Like come up to someone and say, why hello there, right? So like, good afternoon. No, what was I talking about? Anyway, we're talking about creativity. So hopefully everybody's coming with me on the idea that like, you know, you can have creative ideas. You can have it's like an extension of your opinion. You have an opinion about something. Okay. What can you do to change it? What would your version of it be? Does that exist? If it doesn't, or you don't see it, maybe there would be some benefit in having your way of doing it, right? Your ideas. So instead of like doing a painting or a song or whatever, you know, creative people do, you start a company, you create a product, right? Or you provide a service. This is your creation. And if people like it and people want it, you make money. So win-win. What's great about understanding business? I talked about business earlier. As I said, business is the scientific study of how to make money. That's what it is. So if you go study business, you learn about money. You learn how to make it. Everything you learn in a business program is an offshoot of that. It's part of answering that question, how do we make money? So money is very important to a lot of people. So I'm quite surprised how little business knowledge is kind of out there. You know what I mean? There's a lot of smart people out there, whether you're an engineer or you're an accountant or you're a lawyer. Well, not an accountant, but you're a lawyer, you're a truck driver, you know, whatever. But, you know, and you obviously care about making money. But yet at the same time, people don't know the absolute basics of business. It's hurting them. It's hurting them to understand the world, understand the economy. What should you do? Where should you go? What jobs are there? What need is there for you? You know, if you find a need for yourself, then money usually follows if you can meet that need. Right? So we're going to get into that. Detlef says, I work for an MSP in upstate New York as a remote worker serving Erie county towns and villages. You know, I've been to Erie, and all I remember, this was like, 30 years ago? I was marooned in Erie for 2 weeks or something, or 3 weeks, and I had a crappy hotel in the middle of town, and I looked out my window, and the only thing that I saw in that entire town, there was like a production of Oklahoma, the musical. It was playing at like a place right next to my hotel. And out of sheer boredom, I went to see it. And it was like this fantastically gay production of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Oklahoma. And that's all I remember about being in Erie, PA. So that's what I'm imagining as you tell me this story. So just be warned. Okay, so you're working in Erie for 3 years. The contract ended, unfortunately. Was seeking for local work again, and out of desperation, got an IT support job full-time. It's a low-paying job, but I always strive to help a business grow. I have no path to a promotion, and management continually override previously accepted plans. I've been building my side business for a year right now, and I'm loving it. I also just enrolled in an MBA program and learn more about business and hopefully to make my business successful. Yeah, what you're going to find is that if you start like a business or a side project, like a side hustle, and then you take an MBA, it's going to be like gold to you, because you're going to be learning this stuff and you're going to be going, this is why that thing I did didn't work. And this is how it would work. You know, thank you. You're going to be constantly doing that the entire program. They're giving away gold. It's better, in a sense, to go out and try business stuff and then go to school for business, because it really frames, like, first of all, why you would need to know this, and B, like, how awesome that knowledge is and how useful it is. It's better than if you just come out of school and you go into business school and you've never been out in the real world, you don't understand the practical side. Okay, so you're enrolled in an MBA, you learn more about business to make you successful, and in the end, a 2-week plan turns into a 1-day rush by our MD, what's like managing director. Should I run for the hills or try to negotiate better salary or try to get respect for them? Sorry, hard to squeeze into a small chat. Detlef, I'm from South Africa. Okay. I know someone from South Africa. I didn't understand that he had a South African accent until I'd known him for about 20 years. And then I heard somebody else from South Africa and I'm like, oh, you sound just like him. Could that be the South African accent? Yes, it was. Yeah. Okay, listen, in terms of like what you should do, should I renegotiate or should I head for the hills or, whatever? Listen, I can't tell you what to do because I don't know what's right for you. I don't know what your goals are. Those are certainly options, okay, if you're not happy with how it's going and you've got this, if I understand it correctly, you've got a very demanding boss, essentially, that's pulling the strings here. Now, trying to get respect from them. Now, depending on what you mean by that, if you mean that literally, listen, sometimes it's possible. Sometimes it's not possible, okay? You could be like the most amazing, accomplished, awesome person ever, and if they're laboring under some kind of preconceived notion about who you are or what something you have, like a experience or education or something like that, like it may not be possible to ever overcome it, okay? So you could try, okay? You could try. There's no harm in trying. And now you say kind of toxic. So like, listen, if it's a toxic environment, I would most likely, I'm sorry, I read somebody else's thing thinking it was yours because it was right in the middle of your story. Anyway, I'll come back to that in a moment. If it's toxic, you don't want to be there long term, okay? Like, I think that's pretty clear. However, you should try and get some awareness of how toxic it is in absolute terms, because every employment situation is going to be what some people would call toxic to a degree, in the sense that they're not going to let you do what you want all the time. It's not going to be fun all the time. Occasionally, you're going to have to deal with somebody who's stressed, and so they deal with you in possibly a harsher way than is necessary. A little bit of that is kind of normal, like in the sense that you don't necessarily have to jump ship because you see it, okay? I think for most people, they would agree with that. However, some places are clearly toxic. They're like way beyond what's reasonable and what's normal, okay? So if that's a concern, if that's a big part of this, okay, try and get some perspective. If you've had many jobs before, you'll have perspective. If you've only had like one or two jobs, you may not have really good perspective on like how toxic it is. But if it is toxic, you do not want to be there long term. I would start looking for another option if you haven't done it. Beyond the things that you mentioned, I would look at a variety of different things. You could jump and do your own business. You could be a contractor. Depending on the relationship with your immediate boss, you could negotiate some kind of thing where you become a contractor, where you do your job for them, but you don't technically work for them, and things like this. Sometimes they like that. Sometimes it's not possible, depending on what situation you're in. Okay, but yeah, it's hard for me to recommend what you should do, because I'm not going to be one of those people that just gives you a firm answer when they don't really know. I don't know what your personality is. I don't know how much you enjoy doing each of these activities. So I can't say. You have to figure that out for yourself. But what is a good thing is to get options. Okay, so look for conventional jobs. Go that route. I would recommend the networking way to get those jobs rather than just answering job ads. And if you've got something going on, you said, on the side, I would definitely pursue that. That can at least tide you over while you're in transition. You might even want to try and ramp that up to see if it could be a full-time business. Like if it can replace your income. And if it can, I would go that route. Okay, now coming back to Roxanne, I read your thing in the middle of Dietlef's thing, but let's see here. I've been building a side business and I love it. I just roll to make my business successful. Okay. Yes, I'm constantly realizing the MBA knowledge in marketing is so valuable. My first homework assignment was learning about new products and patents. I'm really enjoying the gold nuggets of school. Yeah, I think for a lot of people, especially like introvert types or technical people, God, my nose is blocking up like I got a flu or something. Maybe I've come down with something. For a lot of people that are like technical type people, just a basic awareness of marketing will like open doors in their mind. You know, like if you're wondering like, what is all this for? You know, if you work in like IT or something, and you usually don't see too much of the customer side of the business, or any other function where you're like a support service. You know, like HR is like that, IT is like that, legal is like that, environmental, health and safety. They're all like support services for business. Even like accounting and stuff like that technically is a support service. So you really don't see what is sustaining this business, because what's sustaining the business is the thing that all the big bosses are concerned with. They've got their eye focused on those things, not on you, right? So if you notice things are kind of neglected and you're not getting fast response times when you have questions and things like this, that's why, because they got their attention focused on sales and marketing. Yeah, like if I had to pick, you see, there is no one area of business that's more important than all the others. You need all of them, and together they result in success. You know, now if I had to pick one, I would say marketing, because that's the most obvious thing. You know, it's the most immediate that leads to sales, right? Sales is just applied marketing. That's really all it is. It's, you know, everybody else in the company has like, you know, developed a thing for you. You just go and say, do you want this? Okay. How many can I put you down for? You know, like that's essentially sales. People talk about sales like it's the most important thing. It isn't. It really isn't. It seems like it's the most important thing because that's the part that interfaces with the customer and where you get paid. But, you know, if you're just a salesperson and you got nothing to sell, let's see how far that goes, you know? Yeah, so anyway, I'm sorry if I'm not really answering these questions too well today. I feel like I got like flu-like symptoms all of a sudden, and I don't know, I got a little muddled there between confusing Roxanne's question with Dietlef's, that I didn't handle that very well, but hopefully you got something out of that. I was in the middle of talking about understanding business, you know, what it is, and, you know, how it can help you in your life. Number one, let's say you had a conventional career and, you know, you follow the standard career progression where you start off at, you know, at a lower level, entry level possibly, or worker level. Maybe you're at the professional level. You know, you're not a manager, but you're someone who's got like a license. You know, you're a fully licensed lawyer or doctor or architect or engineer or someone like that. Maybe you're at the professional level. But you're not a manager. And usually your career track will take you upwards. So if you've been in a job for like 10 years, you're certainly at the point where you could teach that entire job to some newer person, right? And then beyond that, you could supervise maybe a group of people that are all doing that job. You certainly have the technical chops to do it. The question is, do you have the soft skills to do it? Like, you know, in terms of communication skills or just the ability to manage people, there's a lot there that you need to do that role effectively. A lot of, if you ever wonder why there's so many bad bosses in the world, one reason for that is because, you know, we kind of think for some reason that just because you've done a job technically, it means that you could supervise people doing it. And you can't. It doesn't work like that. It looks like it works like that, but it doesn't. Because people end up leaving because they can't stand you, right? Because if you don't know how to manage people, and especially if you're a technical type person, by by default, you're probably not going to be very good at it. That's what we see. So it will help you in a conventional career. You'll be an awesome supervisor. You'll be an awesome manager. And then when you climb the ladder, we have opportunities to move up. You will be able to, because at a certain point, you tack on managing people. On another point, you tack on managing money, right? If you become a general manager, now you're responsible for the cost side of things, and you're responsible for the revenue side of things, and you're making decisions on how to, maximize and minimize, respectively, those two things, and you will have the skills to do that. You can't be like the manager of an entire division. You don't understand anything about money and how money works, or have no appreciation for marketing and what it is, or sales, or any of that stuff. You have to tack on those things because you're expected to interoperate with the marketing department, the sales department, and a lot of others. Leonid says, "Hey Bill, love your videos. What is the best way to budget a side hustle? What percentage of my income should it be to play it safe? I know for stock investments, it's like 10 to 30%. Here's how you budget it. The budget will be zero. Okay. Just remember that, zero. Now you remember that, you'll go far, because you should not be spending any money to try an idea. There's your answer. Anybody who tells you different is wrong and most likely an idiot. Okay? The quickest way to bankrupt yourself is to get the idea in your head that you want to go into business for yourself and try an idea which involves spending a lot of money just to see if it works. And then taking a shot, and because you don't know what you're doing, it fails, you lose your money, and then you have to start again, right? If you want to bankrupt yourself even quicker, what you do is you borrow the money to try the idea. So not only does your idea fail and you don't have any return on all your hard work and time that you spent, but now you have to pay off the money you borrowed to try that idea. Okay? So the solution is to not really spend anything. And when I say nothing, I mean like under $100, Like right now, is it costing me anything to do a live stream? Well, technically I'm using electricity. I'm using energy. And I did buy this computer, or this. I actually built this computer like 14 years ago, something like that. So it cost me money then, amortized over at least 14 years. So yeah, under $100. The goal should be to try your idea for as little money and as little effort as possible. Because that way, if the idea is no good, you find out quickly, it doesn't cost you anything. All you've lost is your time wasted, I suppose. But it's not really wasted if you've learned something. And then you could try again, right? Now, if you keep doing this over the long term, you will eventually stumble on something that works really well. And then when you see it starting to make money, then you put money into it. Does that make sense? That's the way I'd recommend. That's something that I've seen a lot of accountants, for some reason, talk about, like entrepreneurship and side hustles. And they'll give you all kinds of useless advice about the structure of different, types of companies and stuff, like, a sole proprietorship versus a corporation versus, in the States, like an LLC and the other things. But like that doesn't help you at all. And instead, it's getting you to waste money thinking about silly mechanical things like that don't matter because you haven't made a cent. You know what I'm saying? Until you start making money, none of that stuff matters. So dealing with it doesn't matter. The only time you'd want to get into stuff like that where you spend money is where you've proven that this is worth doing. And the way you prove it is by have money coming in. So that's what I would say. So hopefully that makes sense, Leonid. I hope I wasn't too harsh on you or hard on you. It's really a positive thing. There are ways to try your idea with nothing, and the way that I've always advocated for is like the most basic version I know is to just go to a place on the internet where people congregate, go to groups on Facebook or groups on LinkedIn or, some place where you have access to a community of people. You could also do this in the physical world. You could go to a trade show or an industry event for whatever industry you're in, and you could show off your thing. You could say, here, I have this. Like, not like register and have a booth there, but just go down there physically. You have your business cards and you say, I'm selling this. And then you give out your business cards or you give out like a little flyer or whatever. It just says, hey, I offer this. It costs this much. Let me know if you're interested. Now, if nobody responds, that tells you your idea is, in its current form, is no good. It's not getting any traction. You need to tweak it. But if you go to a place and you put the word out, you say, I offer this. Let me know if anyone's interested. And you get inundated with people trying to order it for the price you said. Now you know you're onto something. Now it makes sense to maybe invest a little bit of money to try and fill these orders. Go create the thing that you said you could create for the price that you said you could offer it for. That's why it's important to get those right. And then fill those orders. And then start putting money into, getting the word out more. Right? And then you tweak as you go. Right? So it shouldn't cost you anything. And we were talking earlier about marketing being so important. This is one of the reasons why marketing is important, because you don't even have to create the product to see if anyone's interested in it. Right? You could just say, I have this. You guys know what it is. I'm charging this. Who's interested? Go to my e-store or just send me an email, whatever. In its simplest form, that's what it would look like. Where was I here? Detlef says, I understand it's hard to give advice with little information. I'm 39, I have 15 years IT support with 2 to 5 years, 10 years of jobs. Or listen, don't try and give me every detail of your life. That's not going to help. I won't be able to know what's right for you. Okay. I can give you options. I can give technical things of how to do different things. But in terms of what's right for you, like a life decision, no one will be able to tell you that. You have to decide for yourself. Because there's always more. There's always more. Like, what do you have a family? Like, that kind of goes into it. Are you single? Can you afford to take more financial risks or not? Like the list is never ending. What was this? Constant project delays is that it makes it extremely hard to focus on my startup for software due to fear of constancy, not being able to schedule my time effectively. Yeah, listen, this is the thing. You're trying to juggle a day job with a startup type activity. Yeah, it's challenging. It is challenging, and there's no simple answer to it. You have to adapt what you're doing to your situation, right? Maybe you have to deliver a constant amount of work every week, or maybe you have to work at a constant time slot where your startup would have to move around it. You have to work on it at night, or whatever. You know what I mean? You have to adapt the solution to you. Sometimes if they're just working you to the bone, it may not be possible. Or the only way to make it swing is to really minimize the amount of work, really strip away all the fat, and get down to the bone of what you need to do in your startup, rather than creating a product or doing a bunch of research. Focus on the marketing part. Can you connect with the people that want your thing? Are they even open to buying it from you? Do they even know what it is? Or do you find you'd have to educate these people on that they even need it? You know what I mean? Do that work first. Because if you don't solve those problems, no matter what work you do in other areas, it won't matter in the end. You know what I mean? So you might have to just be more efficient with how you do your startup and cut straight to the important questions and try and get solutions for them, rather than trying to do everything properly, do every little thing and do everything, the way it's supposed to be done. I don't know if that helps, but it would be that kind of thing. Roxanne says, I tried my idea as a hobby first and then put it on Facebook to see if my neighbors would buy it. Short story, I had a few customers and made some money. Okay, great. That's great. But I'm going to tell you right now, Roxanne, and this is for your own good, that doesn't count. Okay. Selling it to anyone who has any kind of personal connection with you, it's useless. What you need to test is if you can contact people that you don't know that you can convince them to buy it. Okay. Doesn't matter how many friends and family buy it in the beginning. It might as well be zero, because you have to start from scratch and see if you can sell it to someone that you don't have any kind of personal connection with. Okay, so the problem that I've seen with some people is that, unfortunately, when they try that approach, which is a natural approach, okay, I'm not judging you for it, but it's a natural thing to sell it to the people you know. That can work against you, because it can falsely convince you that you're onto something because you're making sales. People say they like it. They're happy to pay you, right? So you think, okay, I'm on my way. But then you run the risk that the moment you try and sell it to someone you have no connection to, they're not buying it. And you can't make them buy it. So you hit a wall, right? So what you need to do is you need to go back to the drawing board, back to step one, and create something that you can convince someone that you don't have a connection to buy it. Sometimes the challenge is in the operations, like in the creating the product service offering, and sometimes the challenge is in the marketing. And I always try and get people to find, work on the marketing problem before you even do anything with operations. Before you create a product or a service. What's the point of creating it if you can't sell it? So work on the marketing first. Find something that people will respond to, that they're interested in. In order to know what that is, sometimes you have to go down to events. You have to go down to, for example, let's say you made cakes or something. I don't know, you're a baker, right? You want to go into business opening your own cakery or something, that makes cakes and sells them. Women like cheesecakes, that's what I've learned over the years. I wouldn't say no to a cheesecake too, as you could tell from my physique. But, let's say you were trying to do something like that. Go to the places where, I don't know, cake people hang out, where they talk about cakes. Where people who like cakes go. I don't know where that would be. It could be your local supermarket. It could be some kind of weird bakery industry event, where you have all these people, that entire industry. They make all the tools that bakers use in their kitchens. They're all there. You can see all the competitors, what they're all doing, how they do it. That's where you can get ideas of what to do, And then you go right to people. So whatever industry you're doing, and do it that way. And then if you offer something, see if the demand is there. And usually if it's something that you have to educate people on, this is what it is, and this is why you would want it, and this is why you should pay for it, instead of having it just be something that's offered free. Usually that's kind of the kiss of death in my experience, because as a one-person company, you can't educate the public. It's just not possible. Even multi-billion-dollar corporations have a hard time educating the public on why the public needs their product. Even when the product is good and they're right, this is a cool thing, but trying to get the word out is very, very hard. So it's usually good if you can mention something that people already know what it is, they already know it's awesome, and they already know they need it. That's a real shortcut. That's why traditional type businesses, like becoming a plumber or something, or a baker, that's where they have an advantage over the high tech, innovative type startups. Because the innovative startup says this is what I do, and people go, okay, great, wonderful. I don't know what that is. Right? And then they explain, it's this thing that reconfigures data to do this, and it ties in with web services. And you're like, okay, great. Well, that's good for you. Goodbye. They have no idea what it is. So it's a very tough sell, right? Whereas if you say, oh, I make cheesecakes, I know for a lot of women, it's like, oh, say no more, I'll take two. You know what I mean? Or if, you're selling plumbing services, for a lot of people, guys, they'll be like, okay, yep, I know why I would need that. I know why I would have to pay for that. Detlef says, I make turnkey software solutions, ERP and CRM, and clients love that my software is molded to their business, so it's an easy sell. Right on. You're obviously going to the right crowd, obviously, to do that. Giving them demos is my marketing right now. Okay, great. I can see that. Seeing is believing. It's very effective to give someone a demonstration of certain types of product for it to really come alive. So it's good. Yeah, so what's great about understanding business, like I was saying before, it allows you, if you have a creative streak or you got some original ideas, it allows you to, first of all, do that rather than having to abandon all that to get some day job. You can follow your creative venture, turn it into something that makes money, and then that's what you do. So you can do the creative thing that you want to do and make money off it. So the most obvious example is that, I hate that term creative, where people think it only applies to fine arts. But let's say you do fine arts. Let's say you do paintings or sculpture or music. You can make money off that. That's your hobby. You can make money off it now. So that's obviously a good thing. You have full control. You can achieve your full potential because you don't have people only utilizing a fraction of what you can do. You can take all your skills and bring them to bear on something. So like that's another advantage of going into business for yourself. Okay. You can customize the role for you. So people are not strong in every area. I don't care who you are. You're not going to be strong in every area. Some people are extroverts, some people are introverts, some people have technical knowledge, some people are better with people. It's hard to be strong in every area. You're the engineer, but you're also the salesperson, but you're also, like the customer service person, but you're also the marketing person. You're also the accountant. It's hard to do everything. So you can customize your role to fit you. That's the other great thing. So this is why I think it's great, and I would encourage people to pursue this because the payoff is really big. Now, just a couple of things I want to mention. If you decide to embark on a journey to learn business and to apply it to your life, to your creative ideas to make money, okay, usually can't be done overnight. It's going to take a while. It's something you have to commit to, like anything else. It's like learning to play the piano or becoming a black belt in some martial art. Like it's going to take a few years to do. Doesn't mean that you have to wait that entire time for it to start to pay off, but it's a journey, and it's not something that can be done overnight. It's not like a get rich quick kind of thing. Usually the best things start with you trying a bunch of stuff, and most of it will fail. You'll get little wins along the way, but most of it will fail, but you'll learn each time. That's a mistake you're never going to make again. And education can help you with that. Like getting an MBA, learning business, any area of business, it'll help you make less mistakes so you don't have to learn everything the hard way. That's what I found with people. Just going back to the chat here, Roxanne says, okay, that makes sense. I need to go to some events to get ideas. Well, listen, if that's where your industry is, the thing is, when you do business, you realize that it's not all about you. It's about your customers, right? You serve them because you're hoping that they will buy your thing, right? So in order to get them to buy your thing, whether it's a product or a service or a combination thereof, it has to serve them. It has to meet their needs. It has to be kind of what they're looking for, right? Now, how can you produce something that meets these people's needs If you've never met them before, you've never had a conversation with them, you don't know what their needs are. You have to understand what their needs are. Understand like how they think about this stuff. What are their preconceived notions or biases about this kind of stuff? You know what I mean? How do they think? Maybe they think this, ERP and CRM software that can only be made by giant software companies, right? Maybe that's what they think, right? And it's wrong, right? You get a lot of ERP or CRM providers that are like smaller, right? Like our friend Dietlef here. You know what I mean? Or they think like it can only look like this, or you could only have this kind of payment model, or it can only do this for you and nothing more. Like maybe they have all kinds of preconceived notions. You have to go out and find out what those are. And then at the same time, you also have to promote yourself. You also have to say, hey, I do that. Here's my card. If you're looking for that, you should check out my stuff. Because the great thing about my stuff is that we overcome this problem. And we cater very much to people who need to do this and this. So if that's you, which it sounds like it is, here, check out what I can do for you. Like you're going to have to do that anyway. So you combine it. You spend time with your customers. Knowledge comes this way, right? You learn about them and then, or information, I should say, comes this way, and then information comes that way. You promote. This is why you should get my thing, because it'll solve that so much better than what you're doing right now. So spend time with your customers wherever they are. Sometimes they're in the physical world. Sometimes it's virtual. Sometimes it's like over social networking and stuff on the internet, right? But wherever your potential customers are, that's where you need to be, understanding them and getting that two-way flow of information. Now, if you do that first, when you go about creating something to offer, it'll be the right thing. What a lot of people do, especially introverts and technical people, what they do when they do startups is they guess. They don't actually go out and meet their customers. They just guess. They think, surely these people will want something like this. And what a coincidence. The thing that I'm building for them is the thing that I think they should have. Do they share that opinion? Well, we don't know. But we're going to proceed as if on the assumption that they do, because come on, I couldn't be wrong. Right? That's how a lot of introverts start, and that leads to failure. And then after they failed a couple of times, then they get a bit more humble and they realize, maybe I should actually hang out with my potential customers and get to know them, see how they think, see what they're looking for. And then maybe simultaneously I can get them to trust me, realize that, I speak their language and I can help them. And then maybe they'll buy from me too if I produce the exact thing that they're looking for. Dietlef says, I secretly research companies that research what big tech ERP does and see where I can fill gaps. Then provide similar functionality at lower cost. Okay, good. The problem with lower cost is that you will never be able to beat big players at lower cost. It's just not possible because they have economies of scale and you don't. Now, listen, if there's like a local kind of thing where you can fill in a need, great. And there's also a certain type of customer that's always looking for something cheaper. Cheaper. Can you do something cheaper? I want it cheaper. The problem is, all things being equal, something for cheaper is not as good, right? That's the reason why there are higher cost or higher price tag options, because they're better in some way, right? Now, some other customers, they feel it's worth paying the extra money, that price premium, to get something better, right? Whether it's really better or it's perceived to be better, there's definitely a type of customer that goes for that, right? The problem is, personally, I'm not a fan of like the race to the bottom type strategy, where it's like we're always looking for a lower cost solution, lower cost. That's kind of like the cliche is that's kind of the China approach, right? You can always make something cheaper. Yeah, it's cheaper and it's crappier. And you get to that point where as you keep making it cheaper and crappier, it gets to the point where it doesn't make any sense anymore. It's like, okay, yeah, this is cheap, but this doesn't even work. It doesn't make any sense. We have to spend so much money because we have this crappy equipment now just to overcome it and fix it and live with it, that it just makes more sense for us to just buy better equipment, So that's the problem with that. Like in theory, like in general, right? So I have no doubt that you're making money and that you're catering to a certain type of customer. But wouldn't it be great if you adopted more of a focused strategy where that's where you say like, look, there are big players in this market and they are huge. They're big multinational corporations. They produce like a ERP solution. You could get that, right? But instead you should get my solution. Like I'm a one-person company operating locally. Instead of them, like SAP or something, you should get me. Because here's what I can do for you. SAP is not really caring about companies exactly like yours. Let's say you're you're a bakery, once again. SAP doesn't care about bakeries and adapt their software specifically for bakeries, right? Well, I do. SAP doesn't care about customers in this country or this region, and doesn't really have agents here or representatives here that go out and work with you and address the specific concerns of doing business here, right? Well, I do, right? So that's why you would choose me over SAP. I'm focusing on customers just like you, whereas the huge multinational isn't. They're doing bulk solutions for hundreds of thousands of clients, right? They don't really care too much about your experience, So the focus strategy, you can actually charge more than SAP or the equivalent, right? And people would pay it because you have stuff that's every bit as good as the big competitor, in as much as that your clients use it. But in addition, you're tailoring your stuff to exactly what they're doing, whereas the multinational isn't. And so that's why you have the edge. So something like that, I'd encourage people to try and, like, if you're in that type of situation, then maybe like think about trying to do that, because in theory, that should give you an edge. Okay, Dietlev is talking all about this. I probably failed 5 startups. Yeah, that's typical. It takes a bit of iterations to get this. It's like playing golf. How many people they first try and play golf? They're learning how to hold the golf club, and then they get a hole in one. Like how many people do that? Not many people. It takes a few tries, right? I myself, it took me about 4 swings before I got a hole in one. So hey, I secretly research companies, then research what big tech. Yeah, we read that. Yeah, big sell point. I will check out your courses. Okay. Yeah, definitely. Listen, I do, since you mentioned it, I do have the $100 MBA course. I have an MBA. Okay. I've been a CEO. And what I did is I realized going through, taking my MBA that like this stuff should not cost you what it costs you to learn. You know what I mean? It's like, first of all the textbooks that you're given for all the courses in certainly an MBA program, they're all available online. You can order them all off Amazon, and you can order older versions of them. So you're not paying $150. You're paying like literally $5 for like, an edition of the book that's 2 editions old sometimes. You're paying like literally $5. Now if you have access to the textbooks, and a lot of those courses, what they really do, this is kind of the education scam, is they just teach courses out of books, And I know this. I went back and I taught in university, and they're like, okay, here's the book, here's the details of the course. This is like your time slot. This is what room you're in. Go. It's like, okay, and you teach the whole course out of a book, Now, I mean, yes, I had expertise in the areas where I was teaching, but in terms of the assignments and, the material and the curriculum, it's like, it's all out of a book that's been approved, So you can get those books. You don't have to be in a university program to have access to the books. So it's like, okay, well, if you could order all the books, like the actual books that are approved, that are used in places like Harvard Business School for their MBA program, which you can, right? Can't you just read them on your own? You'd get what you'd get out of the program, right? If you just read all the books, but it might be more flexible. You could do it on your own schedule. You could do it. If you only felt like skimming this material, you don't really need to go in depth because you don't really care too much about it. You can do that. If you want to go in depth into other material, without being sort of moved along at the pace of the course, it's like, no, I want to spend more time with this because I'm interested in this. It offers you greater flexibility. So that's what my $100 MBA course is. Basically, you get a reading list. You can order the books from wherever you want. You can pay full price for them, or you could pay like really cheap and do it that way. And then what I do is I provide everything for you to do this. And then I provide videos where I go through each subject with you, each class, as it were, with you that has its own book. And I give you my take on the material, and I give you a few tips, like from my career where this stuff helped or gave me some insight into it. So you're not learning from me, you're learning from the book. And the book is written by the, like just experts, people that are renowned in their respective fields. But I'm giving you my commentary on it, and I'm supplementing it with little tips and things here and there. I kind of give you a thing where I go through the entire book for each class. I do a summary and say, like, this is more important, this is sort of less important, this is only useful if you're going to doing this, but everyone should learn this. That kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, check out that course. The catch is that it's unaccredited, so it's only for people that want the knowledge, to apply the knowledge. If you're trying to impress someone with a piece of paper, yes, you can get you get an invoice that says that you did it, you completed this course, for what that's worth. But it's just for people who want the knowledge. So if you're wanting to start your own business or be an entrepreneur, this is, in my opinion, it's perfect. That's why I created it, for people that want to apply it this way. So check that out. There's a link in the description. I'm going to move my camera so you actually read that writing. Maybe something like that. It's kind of hard. Anyway, there's that if you're interested. Jazz musician says, to succeed, be first, be the best, be the biggest, be different. Sure, whatever. MS Kittens, SAP. What is SAP? You don't need to know that. That's a company that makes business software for giant businesses. That it's like if you have a manufacturing plant and you have computers and software that like tell you when to run machines and how much every step of the process costs, and they're keeping tabs of everything. That's the software, right? That kind of stuff. So that's what SAP is, but you don't need to know that. I just used it as an example. Dietlef says, the last question, if a one-man startup for now and doing the business registration, what would you recommend for a title? CEO, director, and others. Well, it's a one-man business. You could call yourself anything. Technically, I don't think you could really call yourself a CEO accurately. Like, it wouldn't be accurate, because a CEO is someone who usually runs the business on behalf of the person or people that own it, right? So they're running it, but they don't own it. If you own the business, a more accurate title would be to say owner, right? You could say director, I suppose. That's because a director technically is someone who is a shareholder that's making management-related decisions at a very high level. So the director title would work, okay? Director, however, is one of those titles that it has about 3 different meanings, depending on what context, right? Like director as in board of directors, that's the context that I'm using it in, right? And if you incorporate your business, usually you file, I don't know if it's universally known as articles of incorporation, but at least that's what it's known in some countries. You say what the business name is and all that, and you have to say who the directors are, right? So you would be the director of your own business officially. So you could say director. Director or owner would be fine. CEO is if you owned it, but you hired someone to run it for you. Okay, that was my title because I didn't own the business. I was a shareholder in it, but I owned like a fraction of it, a tiny fraction of it. There are many other shareholders, and there was one giant shareholder who had more than 50% of it. So they were the owner, and that was my boss. I reported to them. Good evening to Gabriel. It's great that you could join us, Gabriel. Dietlef says, all right, I get you. Yeah, all that's good. You could say founder. Like if it's a startup type thing, you could say founder. That's fine too. At the small scale, you see people using all kinds of titles very loosely, It wouldn't be bad to listen, if you really want to put CEO on a business card or something just for your ego or something, it doesn't matter. You can do it if you really want. But I'm just saying technically that's usually what people understand that role to involve. You're running it, but you're not managing it. But at the small scale, I don't think anybody really cares. So you put what you want. Wasn't there that famous story that's probably people are sick of hearing, where Mark Zuckerberg had those business cards and he says CEO bitch or something? Don't do anything like that. You have to have the social skills of Mark Zuckerberg to be able to want to do something like that, I think. Yeah, I don't want to oversell it. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, so I just want to scan I think I've said everything I want to do. I want to talk about managing risk, because that's something that not a lot of people talk about in the context of entrepreneurship. It's very, very important that you manage your risk. And the way I would just package that and say, number one, try an idea for practically no money. If you have an idea and it requires a lot of money to get off the ground, I would say abandon that. Find another way to test that idea. Because it's just not worth it. That's not the type of thing you want to do in a startup. See, big business exists to solve big problems. Small business exists to solve small problems, right? So, for example, we were talking earlier about how Dietlef has, an ERP business. You create software to sell to clients at a local level, right? And you have some success doing that, right? So you're solving small problems, just little businesses at a local level, something you can handle, one person can handle. That's great. SAP sells software that you could use to run Boeing, you know what I mean? Or Airbus, you know what I mean? They can run their entire operation, their manufacturing operation, their HR operation, their accounting operation, everything. And it's all connected together, and it's all, monitoring everything, and, everybody in the company uses it. It handles warranties. It handles everything, right? All in one app. So they are solving a big problem. It would be very hard for a one-person company to sell Airbus or Boeing a software package that they wrote that could run their entire business. It just, that's a big problem. You just don't have the resources for it, right? So if you're wanting to start a startup, a one-person business, you can't say, okay, well, I need to spend $100,000 on creating this, oil refinery operation, and then I need another $100,000 to lease a drilling rig for it. It's no, that's out of your depth, right? Oh, I got an interesting comment here. Rude presenter, closed-minded much, unsubscribing. Okay, awesome, great. No, I'm just not a fan of people coming in and giving advice on my platform that I disagree with, and it's an empty platitude. So, sorry. Gabriel says, that's why software development is so good as a skill for entrepreneurs. You can build an MVP for cheap, well, basically free. Yeah, you can. But like, once again, the problem with that is, look, it takes all kinds. There's no one way to do it. You could do it different ways, but I'm just more of a fan of people that go out and do the minimum possible thing to test it, to see if they can get a response from their potential market, rather than creating this massive thing that you put a lot of time and money into, and then finding out that there's no demand for it. People don't like the product, right? I've seen so many people fail like that. I advised startups for several years, and I had a lot of clients that would do that. And it's because of the ego, because they want, I want to do this thing. And like, okay, great. The thing is, you're confusing a research project with a business. See, a research project, that's where you get into the operations component, where you create a thing because you like creating the thing, and it's like a proof of concept. Great. But a business is something that is not, you're not there to write software. You're there to make money. So you only write the software in as much as it gives you something to sell. And if it can't sell, then you don't create it. You know what I mean? You don't put time into it. So that's that. Thank you to Dietlev. Thank you to Carmiego. You guys are awesome. And no hard feelings, jazz music fan. It's like, it's all good. Don't worry about it. I apologize if I was a bit harsh. I maybe shouldn't have been. No, I just find there's a lot of people that give lots of cliched, kind of general kind of things. And that's great. That might be great for like inspiration. Maybe it serves that, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, it's not true. It's, there's a lot of people, for example, you said to succeed, be first. That's incorrect. Case in point, Google. Google was not first. Pretty much almost everybody had done search engines before them and failed. Google was one of the last. And in fact, the investors for Google had cold feet because they felt at the time that, like, wait a minute, that market has already been carved up among all these other people. You're coming in too late, right? Okay. And there's been many examples of that throughout history. Okay. Be the best. That's not necessarily true. We talked earlier in this live stream about, the strategy of the race to the bottom, where you compete on price. So you can produce something that's okay, but it's cheap, right? And you can make a lot of money doing that if you can scale up. An example of that is Walmart, right? Do you buy the best stuff at Walmart? No, but you buy something halfway decent that's cheap at Walmart. That's their strategy, right? Okay. To be the biggest. Well, certainly you don't need to be the biggest player to succeed. Look at Ferrari. You've got Toyota that makes a lot more automobiles and sells a lot more than, say, Ferrari or Lamborghini or these kind of things. But Ferrari or Lamborghini make much more profit in every unit, every vehicle sold than Toyota does, right? So in a sense, they're more efficient at making money off a small number of cars than Toyota is. So you certainly don't have to be the biggest to be one of the most successful, depending on how you measure success. Or be different. Once again, that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of people that come in that it's part of the life cycle of business where, in the beginning you might have some originality and different brands, but then over time, as the product matures, you get, more generic type things. And so things like, look at a lot of the PC makers like Dell, is Dell that much different from all the other PC makers like Lenovo? Really not. They tend to converge, it becomes a commodity. So once again, that's not necessarily the thing you need to shoot for to be successful. So that's why I had a bit of an issue with you coming in and just posting this like it's a fact when it isn't. There's a lot of nuance here, and people like to oversimplify stuff. So that's all. Yeah. So yet left to be able to handle humility, setbacks, and missing opportunities. Yeah, I agree. Anyway, make sure, okay, some of the stuff I didn't really get to today. Manage your risk. Okay, don't spend a lot of money. That's the kiss of death for any kind of side hustle or any kind of entrepreneurial venture. You got to do everything on the cheap, and I would even try and test the idea, validate the idea without spending any real money. Like, we're talking literally under $100 to completely test your idea. This is possible. It's possible when you realize you don't have to create a product or service in order to probe the market to see if anyone's interested in that product or service, right? It takes time. We talked about that. You do it in baby steps. That would be a topic for another live stream, I think. I think I'm going to cover that next time. Anyway, I'm going to have to wrap this up. I see there's 42 people here. Thank you for being here. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you taking part in this. And also to the people that commented, and also to Jazz Music Fan, too. And I'm going to be back with this live stream next week. I do it every Monday at the same time. So if you are taking your steps into the world of entrepreneurship and business, and you have questions, come back here, ask your question, and I can try and help you out. Other than that, check out my courses. If you want to learn business in a hurry, this is the best bang for the buck you're ever going to see. $100 to learn everything that you would learn in an MBA program. And that is actually not a boast. That is literally true. What's the catch? The catch is that it's unaccredited. There are no tests or assignments or evaluations. You get the textbook. You can do the problems. You could look at the answer key. You could do it all yourself if that's what you choose to do. Or if you just want to skim the material and learn a good overview of it in a month or something, you can do that. It's very, very flexible. So that's why it's unaccredited. It's never going to be accredited because there's no evaluations, because some people just want to get, a sort of cursory overview. They don't want to go deep, Some people do. And whichever one of those you want to do, you can. So that's the deal. Check that out. There's a link in the description if you're interested in that. And I've also done FAQ type videos on that stuff. So so it's as transparent as possible. I answer questions about what you get and how it works, so you can see all that stuff before you pull the trigger. And there you go. Detlef says, thank you. Nothing beats real life experience. You're absolutely correct. But trying to learn everything from real life is not very efficient. There's a reason why education exists. We can take advantage of the learning of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in the past that have done exactly the things we've done, including some very smart people. It's all packaged, and all the lessons are there. So it's usually good to get that and then supplement that with your own experience. You can't beat that combination. Thanks, everyone. You guys are awesome. I will see you in a week. Take care.